Greetings, my name is Kevin Matthews and I am the tax professor. Welcome back to class. Remember, class was never out of session because the learning never stops. And we're going to continue with our learning where we're going to be talking about filing status during a divorce. I will tell you something, folks. I've been doing taxes, oh my gosh, this will be my, I believe it's either my 16th or 17th year. I lose count. You know, it's almost like when you turn 25, nobody cares how much older you get until you hit 65. You know, it's kind of that way. Once you've done taxes for 10 years, nobody almost counts that stuff anymore. But I do oftentimes get questions about this when I'm dealing with clients who are going through divorce. Now, I will tell you, in all my time, there's probably not a situation that dreads me the most than watching a client go through divorce. I feel for them. You know, I try to be very empathetic. I try to work hard to make sure that my clients are taken care of and that they have all the financial resources that are necessary for them to be successful after they go through their divorce. And I feel very, very bad, you know, in this because obviously we're talking about pure raw emotions, you know, and you know, when you're mixing emotions with financial situations, that's almost like mixing nitro and glycerin together. It just doesn't work out in the long run. And I really feel bad for people on this. So if you are going through a divorce, first of all, please accept my, I don't want to say condolences because I think we say that only when people die, but please accept my my understanding and you know, again, I would be very happy to help you go through this so that we can get this done and get it done as cleanly as possible. Something that we notice, of course, is that the longer people are married, the longer those assets are together, the longer they build stuff together, and then it gets really, really nasty. I mean, I had a friend of mine who got divorced after only 2 years. They walked in, did an annulment, walked away. It was very amicable. They're still friends. That's of course the way that you want things to go. And then I knew one person who got divorced after being married for 30 years. Every single thing that they had built together was up for a fight, and I just felt horrible for them. And typically what will end up happening is you're going to have to figure out you know, how that division takes place. And again, that's more of a legal issue, not as much of a tax issue. Now, there's going to be some things that are going to happen tax-wise, and I'll be happy to go over those in a different video where we talk about tax issues relating to a divorce. But you know, you definitely want to be working with a CPA. Now, here's something else I'm going to put out, and then I'm going to get into the comments that I've actually prepared for this video. If you are married filing joint and you have a CPA that's working with you, you both need to figure out where that CPA is going. All right? Don't play games with this. Okay? And if you have a CPA who swears to God he's going to represent both of you and be fair about it, find a different CPA to represent either. You know, if you love your CPA and you're one of the spouses that's going through this divorce, and the other CPA is kind of, I'm not so keen on him or her, you know, keep the CPA and move on. I would think that any CPA worth their weight in gold is basically going to tell you, you're going through a divorce, you need to find a different CPA. For one of you at the very least. I've actually seen where some CPAs said, I don't feel comfortable representing either of you because I like both of you very much and I don't want to have a situation where I've ruined the relationship by the time we get done with this. And then they've recommended that they go to a different CPA to take care of stuff. It prevents a massive conflict of interest if you have a client where you're representing two divorcees that are still going through that process, and so every single time I've done it, I've said, look, you're going to go through a divorce, fine. One of you gets me, and you guys go figure that out. And you know, if I need to be involved in any of that, I'm happy to do so. Generally speaking, it's the one that I have the best relationship with that usually wants to stick with me. And that happens in any tax situation where I have clients. I'm usually talking to one of the two. Sometimes the wife insists on doing everything and says, I'm going to handle all the finances in the house and I will talk to the CPA. If they go through a divorce, probably going to go with the wife. If you know, and on the other hand, there's sometimes where the guy wants to, you know, be involved in everything that has to do with the finances. Go through divorce, chances are going to go with the guy. And it's not that I choose one or the other. Usually that choice is made for me, and then they come to me and say, look, this is how we've decided. She's going to go get another CPA, or he's going to go get another CPA. But that should definitely happen, because there's a lot of things that happen during divorce you're going to need to ask some tax questions about. You don't want to have a situation where you're worried that your CPA, tax advisor, your CPA, EA, or tax attorney isn't giving you the best advice because they're also looking out for the other person, especially if one person's going to get more money than the other one. That presents a huge conflict of interest, and so you want to make sure that you have differences. Okay, off my soapbox, and I apologize for that. It's just that these are just some things that I tend to see in the industry a lot. So getting back to filing status during divorce, you ask if you should do married filing joint, and if as of end of the tax year there's been a final divorce decree done, and you are separate as of the end of the year, you are going to be filing single. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Either single or head of household. You know, if you've got kids involved, you're probably going to file head of household. And if you don't have kids involved, you're probably going to file single. And part of the reason why that is the case is because the IRS, when they determine filing status, it's always on the last day of the year. And so if you get all the way to the end of the year and you have completed your divorce, you will either file single or head of household. There's no, unless you've remarried, then you won't. You won't have to worry about that. If there is no final divorce decree, you're going to have a choice to make. Do you want to do married filing joint? Do you want to do married filing separately? And that, look, I'm going to give you the tax answer to it. The tax answer to it is, whenever possible, do married filing joint. You're going to save money on taxes. It's going to help you out. You're going to get several tax credits that you might not get otherwise. You don't have to fight over who gets the kids on the tax return at that point. And oftentimes, it avoids a lot of complications that can take place at a very early stage of the process. I remember a couple of my clients that decided they were going to get divorced. Literally, they decided they were going to go through the process of getting divorced halfway through December. And so, the husband who I was talking to frequently comes to me and says, well, my wife and I are getting a divorce now. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm really sorry to hear that. And he said, look, we want to do married filing separate. And I'm sitting there going, why? This would be a bad idea. I said, let me tell you the tax answer, and then we can talk about the psychological answer as to what you want to do with this. The tax answer is that you're going to pay lower taxes, you're going to get credits that you wouldn't get otherwise, and you don't have to fight over who gets the kids on the tax returns the first year. At that stage of the divorce, where, I think I was talking to them in February or March, they had only started, both hiring lawyers, both getting their stories together, both deciding on how they were going to proceed. The last thing they needed to do was fight over how they were going to do this tax return. And I said, look, I know your wife very well. Let me talk to her, and I will convince her to do the married filing joint if you guys decide to do so at that time, because of for other reasons too. Now, obviously, lawyers are always going to want to have an answer to that too. It might be one of those things that, a simple solution to that would be split the refund. If you split the refund, that's usually what everybody's fighting over anyways. And usually it's basically going to be whoever's got the kids wants the refund for obvious reasons, because they're trying to take care of the kids, or whoever's got the lower income is going to want the refund because they need the extra income, they need the extra money in order to be able to continue supporting themselves. And sometimes you can just a simple sit down and say, look, I think you should just split it and go forward with that. Now, again, getting back to my original conversation, she needs to be hiring another CPA at this point, because you want to make sure that that's taken care of. Now, I knew that she hadn't at that point, and my goal was, let's just get the darn tax return done, and then you guys can kind of figure out how it gets split. Now, another thing that's actually possible, and I've actually recommended this for a couple clients in the past too, do a married filing joint tax return, take the refund, throw it in escrow, and then that becomes part of the divorce. You guys can fight over that. But at the same time, you're not going to be hurting yourselves with regards to doing a married filing separate tax return because you want to do married filing separate because you don't want to know have the other person know what's going on in the life. In his case, you know, they had only decided on December 15th. She already knew what was going on in his life at that point, okay? I wasn't too worried about that. Now, different story, if the decision to do the divorce was made all the way back in March, wholly different story. Wholly different story. That's where it's kind of like, okay, in 9 months, you could have gone through a lot of different stuff that maybe you don't want your wife to know about. Again, I try to provide the tax answer to things, and then we kind of go over the psychological reasons why you might want to do it. And your lawyers are going to decide whether there's a legal reason in order to be able to do certain things. And oftentimes what will happen is the lawyers are going to jump in and make their recommendations anyways. And then the taxpayer is going to come back to me and say, Kevin, okay, I heard your tax answer. I've talked to my lawyers, gotten their legal answer. We've sat down and talked to you about the psychological reasons, because I do, you know, I'm getting my doctorate degree in organizational learning. I do talk a lot about the emotional aspects of certain, you know, of splitting up in this sense. You know, we just decided that we're going to do married filing joint, married filing separate, or whatever. And then, you know, kind of figure that stuff out. Look, I try very hard to give the very best tax advice. Sometimes the tax advice is going to be in conflict with some of the other reasons. And you need to understand that. And your CPA is not there to tell you the end-all be-all for what you need to be doing with certain things like this. You want to talk to your lawyer. You want to find out what the lawyer says. But if the tax person and the lawyer are coming up with different answers, there's a couple things that you can do. One, you can ask your tax person to talk to your lawyer and say, let's get on a conference call and hash this out. All right. I've been working with a client for 20 years. You've been working with the client for, 20 weeks. Okay. I know the client very well. This is why we want to do what we want to do. Or it could be one of those things. I've been working with a client for 3 years. You've been working with a client for 3 weeks. This is why I think we should do it. Is there a legal reason why you think we should do otherwise? And oftentimes what will happen is the lawyer and the CPA can work things out that ends up working out to be the best. I like it when I get to work with divorce lawyers and helping to get the best answer with my client. Now, I do have some lawyers out there that are basically like, you're a CPA, I don't want to talk to you. You're lower than me. I actually had a person who told me on the phone, you're not good enough to talk to me. And I don't think he was referring to my skills. I think it was just the fact that I was a CPA and not a lawyer, which I found a little insulting, but again, my goal is to make the client happy. I don't have to make the lawyer happy. That's for somebody else to do. That's all I got to say about that. Thank you very much for watching this video. My name is Kevin Matthews and I am the tax professor. Remember, this class is not going to be out of session because the learning never stops. If you want to talk to me about anything that I've mentioned in this video, please leave a comment in the comment box below. And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at my website at www.betasolutionscpa.com. Again, that's www.betasolutionscpa.com. And I'll be happy to talk to you one-on-one in order to resolve whatever issues that you would like to bring up to me. Again, thank you very much for watching this video.